what you know about me. I seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me. I done it all, just want it all. Oh, what you know about me. I seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me. Oh, what you know about me. Oh, what you know about me.
Message.
Eights. We got a lot of green five, a lot of investment. Bet on yourself. Matter of fact, while we here, shit. He said no volume, but y'all can damn sure see, can't y'all?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
While y'all there, y'all can scan the QR code. Scan that QR code, bet on yourself, make sure y'all make it happen. It's up, we're running, baby. Omar Cup of tea.
Big Omar.
Omar Cup of tea.
Omar's in the building. You already know,
man,
baby.
First of all, before we begin, y'all shout out to our distribution partners, the Live Podcast Network, first woman-owned, black-owned podcast network in the world. So we're going to get a horn for that. Shout out to the boss lady and the entire team. We don't talk it, we walk it, and we rocking with our team, man.
I work for a woman, and I like it.
And that's how. Shout out to the boss lady, baby.
And I like it. You ain't got no complaints from me. You can read it,
Shout out to the boss lady.
Yeah, that's a fact.
You already know. With that said, man, let's get it rocking because we.
Let's start the show.
You get busy with
She's
it. So
a beast, man.
I don't know.
First of all, we usually give the long intros. We're gonna give the backstory, man. First, we met this brother live in April at LinkedIn. Shout out to Black at Event. We had a panel with Doug Melville and Jay Alexander. Shout out to the brothers. Malik came in LinkedIn. I saw him running back and forth and sweating and shit.
He waltzed in. He waltzed in.
Thank you.
Yeah, he didn't come in. He waltzed in. It's a certain aura about how he enters the room.
They talking about that's your ID.
Is that what happened? I was invited, man. I was invited.
That's the person at the front.
That person don't count.
You go,
That person don't count.
Not
Everybody counts.
Not everybody, but this brother's a legend.
Yeah, that's the fact.
That's what it was. And then randomly came on the stage, said, "Yo, I'm gonna be a part of the panel, man."
No, that actually wasn't planned.
None of that was planned.
They volunteered told me. Jay did.
Jay did. Yeah.
Shout out to our brother, man.
Yeah, shout out to Jay, man, because once again, like we talk about that support, Jay didn't have to do that.
Right.
Once again, right? He knew the value that you were gonna bring to the panel, and he extended himself as technically asking you as that favor. Yo, why don't you come join us on this panel? I know you got a dope insight. It worked into what you do anyway, so it made sense, but he didn't have to do that.
Right.
So, shout out to Jay for, once again, like, that's the support we talk about. It's the little things,
We just like, brother, we don't ask you anyway. What you think about that?
Yeah.
What you think, yo?
Speaking of which, where we at right now?
Yo, we in hip-hop closet, man.
Closet. Shout out to Kai.
Yeah, we love Kai. Yeah.
First of all, make sure y'all go check out our episode with Kai. Still out on YouTube.
That's a fact.
Streaming platforms. She had a great episode. Great story, man. It's a great black-owned business right here in the Brooklyn Navy, y'all. Make sure y'all pop out. And Saturday, block party, second annual block party.
That's a fact.
Pull up. We will be in the building. We're going to be supporting. We're going to have a great damn time.
I'm telling you right now, if they put the cardboard out there, you getting it. I'm telling you, they got the cardboard on the floor, and you might get a head spin. You might get the turtle back.
Turtle back.
Yo.
You might get the spin-a-rooney.
Okay.
I'm definitely coming out with the windbreaker pants and the Adidas and all that. I might bring out a headband or something.
Yo, we gonna battle.
It definitely might be a battle.
Nah, man.
Let's go.
Well, I want to introduce. We usually give you the great introduction to a brother. So first of all, you're from the South Bronx, big Bronx energy, y'all. So let's talk about some of your early influences, bro. I really want to know South Bronx. You got into acting, changed your life, changed the trajectory.
That song you just played, the down.
It was Axel?
Yeah. Nah, that's from
Ain't that Beverly Hills guy?
No.
Well, you know, they used it. They sampled it, but that's not the origin. You know how music
I'm a youngin'.
Yeah, you know how music is.
Yeah. That was
I'm
I
pretty
forget
sure
the name of that record. Yeah, but I was like playing at block parties and shit, you know, summertime jams in the parks. That's an influence. What else? Man, just growing up in the rubble, bro. Growing up with the dope fiends, and I know, you know, it might sound like a downer, but
okay.
With you.
No, I understand.
Just because like you could see how people are living, you go, I don't want to do that. Right. I want better for the community I live in. So,
no, I could dig it.
And in some ways, seeing people that were struggling is an inspiration. I mean, you know.
Yeah, what part of South Bronx? You talking about 138th?
That's exactly. Well, when I was born, I lived on 137th.
Okay.
And then I lived on West Farms Road. I lived on Undercliff. I lived on Allerton. I lived in the Coops over there off Barker Avenue. I've lived at Fordham Hill. I've lived all over.
Well, Fordham Hill don't count. I'm just saying.
But
we don't keep saying hoods. All those other ones in hood, but Fordham Hills don't count. Fordham Hills does not count with the rest of them. We got to separate Fordham Hill from that.
But it's right by Sedgwick.
Yeah, but I know, but Fordham Hills. Yeah, but you know Fordham Hills. Yeah, but Fordham Hills
is down the hill.
Fordham
Hills by the VA hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those are actually rentals, man.
Are they now?
They were always rentals.
I know people that bought their joints on there. Yeah.
I lived there like in the 80s.
Okay, yeah. I know a lot of people that like bought them. They, you know, it's a gated community. Yeah. So you know, a lot of the projects ain't no gate. That's not the kind of gates we got. Right. We got the small gates, little black ones that we jump over.
Yeah.
You guys actually got like the security guard.
No.
Guard. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I live in the Bronx. That's not a bad place to live.
But did you take classes and courses and all that stuff to begin? What got you into acting, bro?
Live theater. Seeing live theater as a kid. My mother taking me to see plays. I saw Alice in Wonderland specifically was a play that was off Broadway when I was a kid, and I want to be part of whatever the magic was, you know.
That's real.
How old was you when you
I was 4.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 4.
Wow.
So we grew up with no TV. So my father refused to put television in the house, and so it was all about either books, instruments, live theater, museums, that kind of cultural stuff.
Okay.
But it wasn't like me watching movies or TV that made me say that's what I want to do.
Yeah, no, because most people, you know, I know like Eddie Murphy said that, right? Like I need to watch every's and imitate them. Jim Carrey said that, like a lot of people. But that's dope. And what was the first opportunity outside of live theater?
To do a film?
Yeah, to do a film. First like major gig you got.
So opportunities were many. Like it's a lot of stuff I didn't get. Like I auditioned for Fame TV show when I was 15.
You remember Fame? I wanna live forever.
I auditioned for the role of Carlton on Fresh Prince.
What? I'm glad you ain't get that.
Yeah, it was not.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I cannot see you as your Carlton.
I pulled up in a seersucker suit, a blue and white seersucker suit. And the original scene was he was supposed to be eating this Philly cheesesteak.
Right.
So I had this like brown paper bag and I put all this grease on the inside and paper in it to make it look like a cheesesteak. Was in the bag. But nah, you know, Alfonso got it. But not so there was opportunities that I never got like that. And then the first film was a short film called Seriously Fresh that I did in 1989. Yeah.
Was I know we jumped
1 year old, man. God damn,
I know we jumped really quickly, but you know, like to see something at 4 years old,
I remember that,
and for it to impact you in such of a way that you're like, at that age, technically, like, well, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I mean, that's a
I don't know if it was about the rest of my
life. That's what I'm saying. Like, but I mean, just inspired you enough to be like, this is the road I want to go. Because at 4, I mean, really. You're not really, you know, your brain is not really developed at 4. You're really thinking about playing and kind of running. You know, you're a kid.
I was thinking about shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, he was advanced about it.
I was definitely thinking about things.
Okay.
And you know, it was just one of those things that was encouraged. And I don't know the extent to which I expressed it, but what I do know is that 4 years old, then you're in kindergarten at 5 years old, obviously playing and making things up. And I had older siblings because our parents wouldn't put a TV in the house. We used to write plays and perform them.
Gotcha.
So in the house. So like if this was our living room, we'd do little skits. And so it was always just going to theater, being around it, making our own little plays. And then by the time I was in elementary school, there was still drama classes and theater. Not even like there was the drama club after school, but then during the school day, you got to do like little plays and stuff. So it was always a school play I was in. So always. So
you know I gotta ask you next, brother, because you went through a lot. First of all, the adversity. You just said you went to Fame, you went to Fresh Prince. These are no's that you're getting, but you're still moving forward. You're still moving forward and say, yo, this is what I'm gonna do. But what was the audition process, right, for the New York Undercover? What was that process like? Like, you know what I mean? Did your agent be like, yo, we got this something right here?
Well, there was a lot of things that happened before that, but you know, so there was theater school growing up, right here. We're in Brooklyn. I used to take acting class with a woman named Cynthia Belgrave. When I was 16 years old. I did, my daughter who's sitting right over there always talks about how much I did. Like I'm always referencing 16 or 17 years old, but the amount of stuff I was into was incredible. But that was one of them.
What style of acting did you study there? Because there's different styles. Did you have like a particular style that you were?
If you mean like Meisner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right.
No, it wasn't Stanislavski. No.
Okay, yeah.
I don't remember what she was teaching, but the reality is when you start as a kid, you just interested in telling the truth anyway, right? Like at the end of the day, you're not really thinking about technique as much as you just believing what it is that you're doing. Message. Start, taking classes and study different styles, or which I did, like HB Studios, Herbert Bergdorf Studio in the West Village. When I got a little older, but there was a lot of exposure, right? So before I did my first film, so there was working at the Negro Ensemble Company, which is a theater company that Denzel came out of there. First met Sam Jackson there when I was that age, Felicia Rashad, Angela Bassett. In fact, my first agent I got when I auditioned for Cool Runnings, which was an open call.
Cool Runnings. Shout out to Leon too. He just put him out.
Which led to New York Undercover audition. I chose my agent based on the fact that Sam and Angela were represented by Ambrosia Mortimer at the time. This is 1993. And so the audition process for Cool Running New York Undercover was the same woman, Jackie Brown, who was a casting director who cast Cool Runnings. When she first read New York Undercover, she thought of me immediately for the role of J.C. Williams. So it was her.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's why when just understanding what the role of Carlton Banks was, and that was a whole different type of dude back then. Like you don't even give Carlton vibes.
No,
like
it didn't work.
He was dressed up like him. You just didn't give Carlton vibes. Like,
but what's for you won't go past you, right?
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, obviously Alfonso.
That's
what I'm saying. Like certain roles, I think are just designed. You might not know it in the moment, but certain roles are just designed for certain people. Like I'm not saying another actor couldn't do it well, but if he does do it, now you have that comparison, and you're like, ain't no comparison. Stick with that one. Like how many Batmans are there? And then you're like, well, we know the real Batman. Like you understand what I'm saying? Like like how many Jokers are there? And then you're like, well, who's the best Joker? Because some people just take the role and it transcends, and you're like, I would have never thought. You know what I mean? Like
I can tell that's how it was. What was it like when you got that script? This is me.
Oh no, it was definitely one of those things. But I was actually when I auditioned for New York Undercover, I was actually shooting Law and Order. The same producer, obviously Dick Wolf, who
Major
was the producer of Law and Order. He had a deal at Universal. Andre Harrell had a deal at Universal with Uptown Records. Andre had the IP. Initially, it was called Uptown Undercover. So when I first got the script, it was saying Uptown Undercover on it. Right.
Hold on. That's an exclusive right there. I've never heard that story before. Let's drop that as an exclusive. I ain't never heard that story before. Uptown Undercover.
So it was Uptown Undercover is supposed to be two black cops based on these guys called the Slick Boys out of Chicago that were actually detectives that were, in the hood. They dressed like cats in the hood. And so it was inspired by them. A guy named Kevin Arkadai had written the pilot. So when it was at Uptown, Lou Wasserman, who was the CEO of Universal at the time, told Dick Wolf and Andre Harrell that they needed to connect because Dick was producing Law and Order in New York already. Andre had no experience in TV.
Right.
They got together, and to open up the demographic of the show,
gotcha.
They decided to make one of the characters Latino as opposed to two black guys. Because right before that, we had Miami Vice, where you had a black guy and a white guy, and so we didn't want to, and we didn't want to do that. So it was like
I mean, but in New York, that works. The most hoods are African American, Latino anyway. Right, so anybody that can see that is an automatic. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I was shooting Law and Order, and I literally
the original one.
Yeah, the first Law and Order.
The first one, okay.
Yeah. So I was doing an episode of that, and I literally broke for lunch. At the same, we shot at Chelsea Piers.
Yeah. Okay.
And I broke for lunch, and then I had to go into the producer's office, audition for New York Undercover, then go back to work on Law and Order. And then
work ethic.
Yeah. Then that happened, and then I guess 30 years later, here we are.
Crazy, man. First of all, that gets a whole
no, listen.
Usually
the funny thing about it is, I laugh because I've done some acting also. Not nothing like major, but I've been in like some TV shows and stuff like that. So I know the process, the hurry up and wait, and then the lunchtime, and you know what I mean? So I could just imagine, like, with you shooting Law and Order, we did a couple, that's an all-day shoot. That's I'm talking 12, 14, all-day shoot. So for you to just be sitting around waiting for your one part, you know what I mean, but to go, and then after you break, you're like, all right, let me go in and shoot, get ready for a whole different character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you got to prepare yourself for that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
How do you prepare yourself for these auditions? Like what is your process to prepare for these? Like, you're already in another mind frame because you're doing the Law and Order, and you kind of just transition like that. It's super tough.
What I remember about that particular one was, so my character on Law and Order was based on a Michael Jordan character, like you know how they would always like take ideas or stories from the rip from the headlines. So Michael Jordan was going through the gambling issue, and his father was killed. So they basically took that story and created my character, which was a baseball player. And he had a father. There was a gambling problem, and the father ends up dead.
Gotcha.
And they suspect that the son might have had something to do with it. Okay. And so the scene I had to shoot after the audition was this deeply emotional scene that they saw me doing my audition for Law and Order. And so I was already kind of in the headspace of right after lunch, I got this other thing I need to do. Right. Like New York Undercover for me, so the audition, it wasn't like a huge transition mentally, because I was already kind of locked in on what I had to do after that. And I just remember all the producers from Law and Order coming to watch me shoot that scene. And they just were taken by the performance, and like, yeah, we think that's our guy. Then I got cast in it, and then I actually got cast in it before Michael, and then they began to read me against a bunch of other actors. So
you already plugged, like,
solidified.
But it's also a big difference, because even if you have a lead role in the Law and Order, now you're auditioning for a principal role.
Well, it was a guest spot.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. It's a whole different mindset, because it's a guest spot.
But at the time, you're not really thinking about it. Like,
you didn't think about it. You didn't go into it differently. I'm gonna be one of the main guys.
No.
That's how I be looking at it. Like, I gotta step my game up. I ain't gonna lie. Like, when they cast me as an extra or whatever, I get paid to do the stunts. So I'm like, yeah, let's have fun. But when I'm saying, I'm being real with you. Like I said, that's what I'm saying. Like, like I said, not as experienced as you, but I've gone through it. So like I said, when we doing extra work, we're doing like stunt work and stuff like that. You have a different mindset, because it's like fun time. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times you don't even have a speaking role. Right. Like one of the things I did was with Lorenz Tate when we did. Well, I think it was on Rescue Me. We did a big basketball scene and all that, and but I didn't have a speaking role. I had a lot of action in it, but it was a non-speaking role. So you have fun with it.
Right.
But now when you got to go and audition and read lines and show them, it's like, I just feel like it's a whole different mode you got to turn on. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's there's more layers to it.
But it
should still be fun.
Absolutely.
I just feel like, the pressure is different. Like, this is the main role. You really throw out an extra. Who gonna dribble like right? Who gonna dribble like this? Who gonna stab the camera that fourth time? You know what I mean? Like, you need 5 cameramen. If I walk away, you only got 4. You know what I mean? So I just felt like, as a principal role, and like in a sense, now the show is crafted around you. Right. So now, like you said, I got the role first.
Right.
Now other actors read against you. So it would be different if they got the role first and then you had to read against them.
Yeah.
See now that you got the role, everybody's suitability and compatibility goes off of you.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why I said, like, it's a different.
I was too young and dumb to know that.
Okay.
I didn't really, because I've been doing plays my whole life. I didn't really think about, and the aspiration wasn't to be on television. It was really to be on Broadway. I grew up making music, doing musicals. Thinking like live theater is the thing to do.
You singing? You the baritone?
He was the
little Barry in you?
Voice from
woo. Then he got a little baritone. He be singing around the house. Let me know. Right?
Come here, lady.
I love it.
Don't blame me. Y'all ain't do your research. Don't blame me. There's proof.
I gotta ask you, bro, because now you're saying like you was also doing like, like you're not an extra, but you had not like the lead role in the Law and Order. How did you negotiate the business now that you're the lead actor of a major show?
Again, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
But he had an agent at that time.
You know what I'm saying?
I'd negotiate anything. This is what the offer is.
And take
this is what the hell did I know? You're just happy to like, okay.
See, that's what I experienced. I ain't gonna lie. Like when you cast, this is the pay, this is hazard pay, this is what you want. Take it or leave it.
In the beginning, you don't really negotiate when you first start.
Because when your brand value, at that point, you're just trying to get in the door.
People weren't even talking about brand value in the 90s. There was a brand was tied. Duracell batteries. It wasn't like people. People weren't thinking of themselves as brands. So, but yeah, man, it just was. I was happy. I'm shooting in New York. I'm shooting in Harlem, where I grew up. So South Bronx, but raised in Harlem.
Right.
And I got to represent the New York that I knew, because you see films, you see, whether it was even like a New Jack City, there's things that you might have seen and be like, nah, that wasn't. There were certain things that New Jack City's not that's not a great example. New Jack City's not a good example.
As I said, I like New Jack.
That's not a good example. But the other examples that I would see, whether it's on television or on film, you go like, that's not how I would represent where I'm from. So everything from, all right, give me the Army jacket, give me the Timbs, give me the Shelto Adidas, give me the like all the fashion, like we're in hip hop closet, right? This is what it was. Like, I'm from New York, so what it's supposed to look like. And so, but everybody was young, like, and we were all part of that. So whether it was the writers like Reggie Bythewood, who was one of the writers on the show, or Richie Owens, who did wardrobe on the show, we're all in our 20s. We're all in our 20s, at the most people in their early 30s, bringing what we knew to the table. So yeah, it was a good time. 30 years ago, though, man. You were one? You were like 5.
You said I was 5 in 89. When you
did I was a little older than that.
No, the Fame audition was like, I was 15, so that was shit. That was 1983.
Yeah, I was around for that too.
That was 1983.
I'm so
83, 84, something like that.
I used to watch Fame. I ain't gonna lie to you. That's why I knew the damn theme song. I watched Fame.
I just remember, man, being 5, 6 years old at that young age, watching Martin, knowing that your show was gonna come on 9 o'clock. I had to be to bed by 9:15.
Right.
Mama wasn't having it, so I had to fucking to get there. But you would never miss that goddamn show, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the impact it had on me. It's just like shit.
What impact did it have on you?
Subconsciously, it's like, yo, people that look like me. on the main channel. Like that whole series, that whole Fox. It was Martin, it was Living Single or whatever. And it was like, there was New York Undercover from 9 to 10. 10 o'clock Fox News, I got to take my ass to bed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that was the impact. It was like, yo, shit. And this is my hood. This is New York. This is where I'm from. This is what it looks like. And it was authentic.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I took from it too. I ain't gonna lie. Like I think a lot of people connected to it for the same reason. I don't think it was done very tastefully. Said it wasn't. Yeah. Obviously, some things for the script had to be exaggerated for the acting purposes, but it was done very tastefully, where anybody that actually was going through the struggle could still be like, I get it. That still makes sense. We go through that on a regular basis. So I think everybody got the same message from it. And I agree with my cousin, for the negative shit. And I was older than him at this time. I was going through the motions. So to see that, I was outside. So to see,
you'd have been chasing.
Yeah,
but one of the dopest parts of the show in that regard, like we used to shoot a lot on 103rd and like around Lexington.
Yeah, because I used to shoot the train station all the time.
So like on 103rd and Lex, that was the spot where guys would hustle.
Yeah.
So to know that dudes left the block to go upstairs to watch on television, and then come back and do that was profound.
Yeah.
You know that when I did a lot of work in prisons, go visit prisons, and to see incarcerated folk celebrate law enforcement, but it's the representation of themselves, even though it was law enforcement. So that was a profound thing that actually made a lot of people go into law enforcement.
That's a fact.
Including folks like Rodney Harrison. Shout out to Rodney Harrison, who's now the commissioner of Suffolk County Police Department.
Nice.
But he became a cop because of New York Undercover. People like Edwin Raymond, who you might know from, if you haven't had Edwin on your show, you should. Have you had him on your show?
No.
So he wrote a book called Inconvenient Cop.
Okay.
And Edwin was part of the NYPD 12, these 12 officers, Black and Latino, that sued NYPD for the stop and frisk program.
Gotcha.
Right, because they were being charged with having to target people that look like them. So Edwin became a cop because of New York Undercover. So there's a lot of people, nationally and internationally. I've met people in Africa, people in the Caribbean, Canada, who became law enforcement because of that show. So
I respected it, but I couldn't go that route. Keeping it 100 with me, like I respect. I looked at it. I loved your character. The gear was fly, but when they was like, "Yo, you should become me."
So your people would tell you you should become cop?
Because once I'm not being funny. Once our culture realized that becoming a cop was more than the law enforcement, that becoming a cop was actually a dope career, where the actual pay salary and the benefits rivaled other mid to high end jobs, because they hid that a long time. See, a lot of people don't know that NYPD, and a lot of people still don't know this. Of all the law enforcement, COs and POs, NYPD is almost like the best paid. Especially their retirement package is better than everybody. So they hid that fact. So when they realized that becoming a cop was like, oh, I could really live not a good life, but a really good life, becoming a cop, get education, benefits, retirement, then they was like, oh, let's do it. But I still was like, I'm not having it.
Right.
Hated it. Like, me, I'm gonna lock up all my cousins. I'm definitely not going to Thanksgiving now. Ain't nobody gonna be locked. My whole family.
But you asked us, how did it impact us? How did it impact you? Like from episode, like when you've seen the success of it, how did it impact? How did life change? Was it just instant?
Yeah, it was pretty instant. Instant to the fact that, like I mentioned, again, 103rd Street, Lexington Avenue. So the show aired, I believe, September 8th, 1994. On September 7th, we were shooting on 103rd and Lex. And the next day, on the 8th, we also had to shoot there. So we left all the trailers in the same area. And so on the 7th, people see you in the street. They might have recognized Michael from Fame and Beat It and the Michael, head of the class, but people didn't really know who I was at the time, other than they may have seen Cool Runnings.
They may have. That's a big.
I'm just saying, by the time, so Cool Runnings had come out a year before, October of '93. So yes, some people saw it, but it wasn't like,
Have you looking for a bobsled?
Yeah. Okay. All right. But the next day when we showed up to set on September 8th on Lexington and 103rd, packed. people realize, oh shit, these people that we've been watching shoot this show in this neighborhood is the show we just watched last night. Hundreds of people were in front of my trailer the next day.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
That was definitely like
106 in Park didn't get that same. 106 in Park didn't get that same love when they moved from 57th Street to actually 106 in Park. It was not received like that. That's why they didn't stay but so long. The love was not the same. So it just goes to show you, like, when they rock with you, they rock with you. You know what I'm saying? But
something different.
You know, again, I think, like I said, we talk about that a lot because culturally, and when we first met, I said this to you, right? You know, do we want inspiration or do we not want inspiration? So if we want our culture to develop some type of inspiration, we can't pick and choose where they get that inspiration from. So I think that's just like the biggest message, I think, why everybody like gravitates, not that you haven't done and continue to do great work, but because that one piece, you know, some is like Kendrick Lamar, what he did is like defines culture. Like New York Undercover role defined our culture in that moment. It was like, it's like a time capsule. What it did for the culture in that moment can't be replicated. Like you said, changed a lot of people's lives, gave a lot of people career, gave a lot of people hope, turned a lot of people into actors, right? Like I would love to be that. I would love to do that. So, you know,
many people. So this is the 30th anniversary year, right? So we're actually preparing a tour right now. So I spent a good portion of today talking with brands and advertising company and advertising agencies about how we're gonna roll out this tour and what it means, right? And so everything you said is the things that I know. So you asked, how has it impact us? So aside from just the fame and the exposure and the opportunities that follow, what I was really interested in was the impact on the culture.
Yeah, it is.
Right? Because before this, I was running the youth program. Right. So I talked about that probably on the LinkedIn channel, right? So I was 23 years old. I was the vice president of City Kids Foundation. I was 25 when I did Cool Runnings and 26 when I got New York Undercover. But I started in community work as a 16-year-old, right, in Harlem, teaching at a place called Upper Front After School Program. So I was already tutoring kids. By 20, I was working in 13 high schools around New York. In fact, in this building is a high school, right, the Brooklyn Steam Center, where we ran our real estate development curriculum, first time ever in the history of New York, in this building.
Oh, we need a horn for that.
Students in this building, right?
Yeah.
So that work has never stopped. And so for me, knowing that, how many men would come up to me and say, hey, man, that relationship you have with your son on the show, that made me want to be a better father. Or kids that would say,
we didn't even talk about that aspect. Yo, the relationship you had as a dad was crazy.
Kids would say to me, I make my father watch the show, and I ask my father, Dad, how come you can't be more like that? And I didn't have kids at the time, right? But I was basing the character on my brother, who was a teenage father, which my character would have been, right?
Right.
And then my own father. So those kinds of things, knowing that the representation of Black masculinity was important, right? There were little things that I would do. You talk about impact. So like if I had scenes with my son, I would always use the best diction, and I would speak clearly. Like it wasn't like how I would be as the cop in the street. But that was very deliberate, right? So as an actor, that's a choice, right? Because for me, it was communicating. One, for me, how many times, especially back in the day, when they would stick a microphone, the camera in front of an athlete's face, how many athletes couldn't articulate themselves well, right? And that would always bother me.
Well, there was not a lot of media training at that time either. But I'm just saying that goes a long way.
It's not just the media training, but it's like we learning to speak the English language.
Right.
And I'm just saying that my mother and my father, they're blah, blah, blah.
Like these children.
Right. But so the beautiful thing about theater, the beautiful thing about theater is you learn about diction. You learn about enunciation. You learn about the importance of hitting your T's and your S's and your R's, your consonants. So those things translate, right? In terms of when you're telling a story, I want to represent us, right, at a street level, but I also want to represent those that might have a little bit more elevated experience. So for me, those things are really, really important, right? If they love
it on YouTube, they go crazy. They love it on
YouTube. If my character is, if the script says JC prepares a TV dinner for G, I'm like, nah, props, go get real food. We're gonna cook in the scene. So there were things like that that you knew you could do that were communicating a message, or even something simple as like, I drop them off at school, yo, give me a kiss. It might not have been scripted, but I knew it was important to show affection between a father and a son. So for me, it was honestly, it was an extension of my community work. So that's really how I looked at it. It wasn't about, oh, this is now the opportunity to start to be a movie star. That was the last, honestly, it was the last thing I was even fucking thinking about. It was really about, how do I do music? Because I'm a musician, right? We got music every week, but Dick Wolf wouldn't let us do music. Myself, Luna, and Michael are all musicians. Even Patty Darbyville, but the producers wouldn't let us do that. How do we use this show to engage community in a more meaningful way? How do I use this money to open up my restaurant, Soul Cafe that I opened? How do I do it to start my record label? How do I do it? So I was interested in like all of this other entrepreneurial community shit more than how am I going to become the next Denzel, right? That was never, and still to this day, that's never been the ambition. It's been, you're gifted, right? You guys do your research about my music. I'm telling you, you can Google my name and look up Malik Yoba singing, right? But you'll see some stuff. But I had a record deal at 24 years old with Columbia, right? I was pushing the music because the music for me was independence, right? I didn't have to wait on somebody to do music. I could pull up, do open mics around the city, which I did. So I was much more thinking about entrepreneurship and community than I was about you know, the ascending as an actor, even though that was part of it, but it wasn't the focus. And in retrospect, I probably could have done more of that. Like I remember meeting with Amy Pascal, who was the head of Columbia Pictures. And at the time, you know, you're the new kid on the block. Everybody wants to have a meeting with you. Studio heads, network heads. Like, so tell me, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I'm like, well, you know, I'm about to open this restaurant. I want to do this record. I want to do, I'm mentioning everything, but please introduce me to, you know, Cameron Crowe or fucking, you know, Quentin Tarantino or Michael Bay or Michael Mann or
you were talking about your aspirations instead of focusing on networking. But again, you live and you learn at that point in time. That's what you wanted.
But that's authentically who I am.
Right.
Right. So even what we weren't able to do with this tour back in the day. So using New York Undercover, I had this idea called the Protect and Serve Tour. Right. And the idea was, how do we partner with community-based organizations that are doing crime prevention, public safety stuff, but use artists that performed on the show to anchor these concerts and then do the community piece. Well, wasn't able to do it 30 years ago, but we're doing it now.
So, let's get some more information on that and put that out there. I love that, man. I just want to say this too, like when you brought up the thing about your son.
Hold on, what time is it?
6:05. So we're gonna talk about this and then let's talk about the foundation. I know you gotta go. I just want to say this, like that's one of the things that we looked at and we loved, but it didn't really represent us, right?
Which part?
The father-son thing, because your son was kind of soft. I ain't gonna hold you. You know what I'm saying? Hey, daddy. Now I know, but I'm just saying. But again, I'm just saying. But I would like you was a rough, rugged kind of dude. He was like, "Yo, come on, dad." Like I know the actor. So we used to look at that like, "Man, you better talk." You know what I mean? Like we would look at him like, "Man, you soft as Twinkie feeling." You know what I'm saying? Like bring him to the frog, we tough his ass up. But again, for us that didn't have fathers, like I didn't grow up with my biological father. So I respected that. I received the message. Look, I go to work. I deal with this type of strenuous lifestyle, but I still make time to communicate with my kid and be there and show up. That was the message, bottom line. Right. So even though we couldn't relate to him because we were way more rougher than he was, and like that kind of innocence didn't exist where we came from, we still understood it. So I just wanted to say that again, it's the impact of the message more so of, you know, exactly how it's played out. Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
I never heard that before. Huh? I never heard anybody tell me that before.
Yeah, because again, like long story short, I'm from Forest Projects. I'm same Projects, Fat Joe, and all. I'm from like, we're not bred to be emotional. We're not bred to be,
which is
like
exactly
that.
why
right.
I did the shit I did.
Right.
Because I know that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
and so that kid, he represented. Like it's like if I'm not, there's absolutely no way we're gonna have a little roughneck, ghetto ass kid.
I'm just saying, but I respect it. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, for you to be as masculine as you was, like, we all come from masculine men.
Right.
There's nobody in my neighborhood.
Masculinity?
Well, that's what we knew it to be in that time. That's all I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And so once again, we're drawing inspiration from what we see. So that's all I'm saying, you know. So we got the message.
I love that because again, it was very deliberate, right, on my part. We could have played that any way we wanted. But there was certain I didn't get that shit from my father.
Right.
And
like, then the kid looked innocent.
Like I got kicked out the house at 16. My father came after me with 2 hammers once. Right. He told me he would shoot me when he kicked me out the house.
Yeah.
Just for catching me in bed with this girl from my theater program.
Right.
So like
bad father. Yo, should have gave him the fist pump.
No, but what I can't
Can I get my Clarence Witherspoon on that, please? Can I get my Clarence? We got a message for your father. Next time he catch something like that, please.
He's slow trying to get it.
I'm trying to nigga.
Can I get my Clarence Witherspoon,
right.
please?
You got all your shit messed up.
All right, come on, let's get to it.
Reverse it. Don't be pussy whip. Whip that pussy.
On the spin class.
Yeah, so
my work got closed.
Yeah, let's talk about the development though. So let's fast track, you know, because we also spoke about what you're doing now, right? With the education and the construction. I just want to dive deep.
Well, not just construction. So real estate development.
Real estate development in general.
Inclusive of construction.
Okay.
But engineering, finance, obviously land acquisition, city planning, you know, politics, it's all the things. But so like we said, I've always been an entrepreneur. You said what inspired me growing up in the hood. Empty lots, broken bottles, pissy mattresses, right? That was outside, but inside there were Architectural Digest magazines, House Beautiful, right? My mother was an interior designer, so it was always beautiful spaces. And although we lived in economically disadvantaged communities, we were not that, right? Yeah, so gainfully employed father who provided and always encouraged entrepreneurship. So I had a paper route from 8 years old to 16, growing up in Harlem, right? I grew up in 1199 Plaza where Jim Davies is from, Jim Jones, Dame Dash, and I grew up in the same building. So, and those were co-ops. That was ownership. So there was always this understanding about ownership. And, you know, we lived in a duplex apartment. There was a whole health club downstairs. This is by the time I left the South Bronx, moved to Harlem, right? So I'm in 2nd grade at this time, where I stayed until I was 16 when my father kicked me out. But it was those early inspirations about seeing the community we lived in, saying one day I'm gonna be a billionaire because I'm gonna put a building there.
Wow.
I'm gonna like build something beautiful. I didn't know it was called development.
Right.
But I learned that it was called development later on. And in fact, the guy I met on the set of New York Undercover, a guy named Dan Bythewood, whose cousin Reggie was a writer on the show, became a developer in the early 2000s. So he's the person who gave me my first seat at the table to learn the game, become a partner,
shout out to him,
invest in a deal with him. And then in 2017, I started Yoba Development. So I was able to think about what are the 3 things that I'm passionate about: real estate, education, media, right? Storytelling, filmmaking. And right down the block is Steiner Studios, where I was shooting this show called God Friended Me, where across the street, where they have a bunch of migrants right now at the hall, that building was being developed by a friend of mine, that whole block. And I'm shooting this show where I'm playing a real estate developer, and I'm looking at that building thinking, how many people from the projects, which are right over here where we can see through the window, how many people from these projects walk past these construction sites or this film set and have no idea about either space? I'm in both of these spaces. And so Yoba Development was born out of that, right? How do I create opportunity for people that look like us to have pathways into these spaces that we know nothing about? So that's where the education piece is. So for me, being able to pursue development opportunities like affordable housing, like in fact, this whole development right here, a friend of mine developed this. He's actually a Black developer. Well, he's a Black guy that works for. But he's the president.
Okay.
A guy named Kurt Goodrich. That's one of their properties right there. And you know, people don't realize, like, what does it take to acquire that land? What does it take to finance that? What does it take to design that, to construct that? How do you have generational wealth when you do that kind of thing? And so for me, it wasn't enough to go after the physical buildings, but how do we bring the people along, right?
Yeah.
If you go back in history, we were the real estate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? As enslaved people.
Message.
Our slogan, builder of people, places, and things, is really rooted in everything I've been discussing, right? My relationship and community, the work I did with City Kids, the work I've done in education, the work I've done in film. And so, long story short, we do have these three verticals. So active real estate development projects, which is a long game, right? You can't just, things don't happen overnight. It might take 10 years to build one development, or 5 years, or 3, whatever it might be.
Right.
So there's those things in the pipeline. The education programs, like I said, we ran right in this building, and now we're doing them nationally, or introducing those opportunities nationally, and then creating a bunch of media around in this space. And so, and then started a foundation, which my daughter over there is the president of. So putting her in a position that I was in when I was her age, right? I was the vice president of City Kids Foundation, so I wanted her to have the experience of what is it like to start something from scratch, right? That can scale and really become a legitimate business, and then exposure to all the things that I'm involved with, which is why she was with me.
I got 2 questions for you.
Yep.
I don't know if you ever got asked this question. 6:13. We got 5 minutes? We got.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 quick questions for you. Number one, because I've done construction for 20 something years. That was my primary 9 to 5.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I'm actually a superintendent and all that. I put up a lot of these high rises and stuff like that.
We gotta do a part 2 and talk about that.
Absolutely.
You still doing now?
No, I quit for this, but I actually have my business degree, engineering and all that. Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. Yeah, construction management. I got my licenses and stuff.
How did you? What was the pathway for you?
Long story short, I came home from the military and wanted to do something else. And a guy of mine had all the apprenticeship lists, but he wouldn't give them up because he didn't have a car. So he's like, yo, let's go get these jobs. So-and-so is opening up. The boilers is opening up. And we knew they made money. So when I just came home, my son was about to be born. I'm like, I'm not going home to mommy. So I had just did 5 years in the military. I'm like, I'm not going home to my mother's house. Let's get busy. Just, bring some type of money in. And because he didn't have a car, I had to drive him around to all the apprenticeships. And I happened to get in and he didn't.
Yeah.
And and if I start something, I don't never do anything halfway. So I started as an apprentice, worked as a laborer, then became a shop steward, foreman, delegate, and worked my way up the ladder.
Which is probably why you said construction right away.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
I love that.
But I got a question. I don't know if anybody asked you this. When you named your company Yoba Development, I've ran into a lot of businessmen that said 2 things. Number one,
don't name it after yourself.
Absolutely. One, don't name it after yourself. And 2, don't name something that somebody can readily identify what your business is as, right?
True.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask you, did anybody ever?
It's too late for me though.
Okay, but I thought I'd ask you that though. Okay, got you.
So
okay.
if I was an anonymous person, that wouldn't make sense.
Okay, got you.
But it's called the Trump Organization for a reason.
No, all right, you're right. You're right. No, facts.
It's called Tyler Perry Studios for a reason, right? And so in our community, like at the end of the day, I'm not developing for white people.
Right. Oh.
I'm not developing for white communities.
I'm not. I need for that. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If anybody gets to benefit from what we do, that is great. But my intention is, how do you create spaces that make you feel elevated as a human, right? And not just elevated because you live there, but how do you participate? So even like the first project I'm involved with in Baltimore, right? And this isn't, I'm not the lead developer on that. I just was an investor, a partner, but like in that building, there's 2 buildings in the west side of Baltimore. It's called Center West. Like when residents met in the building and formed businesses together, that's huge.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Dudes that used to be in the street met each other and was like, yo, let's do this little fashion business together. Or a mother and son open a vending machine business together.
Yeah,
put them in there. Somebody rented 20 apartments and was doing Airbnbs, a husband and wife team. So to be able to create community and inspire economic development, or people participating in spaces that they normally wouldn't do. That's what's really important, right? So our slogan, builder of people, places, and things, that's like how you bring that to life.
Message.
Be this building. What do you do in the building?
Gotcha.
How do you create community? How do you encourage economic development, community development? And so when like that building right there, it's 96-story building as an example. That dude just foreclosed on. Shout out to my daughter the other day, who told me he actually hit foreclosure, which I didn't know but I knew he was over leveraged, right? That guy, that building right there, that's that developer of that building, 44-year-old cat, He did a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but it's known for one of the super talls on 57th Street. Those skinny buildings. That
I built that too. Logo 79. We did that.
Right.
Yeah, we did that building. Yeah.
He's now underwater, right?
Yeah.
Because he was trying to get 2,500 square foot, right, to people in this neighborhood to live in that building.
Yeah.
He's over leveraged, right?
Yeah.
And so he played himself, but he wasn't thinking about how is he bringing you along?
Right.
How is he introducing you to that game? How do you participate? Right. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so I think as developers of color, we generally have, first of all, most of us are first generation. And second of all, we've grown up with the same lack of opportunity, lack of access, lack of resources, access to capital, all the things. And so there's a spirit that I've experienced. I've been all over the world with this work. Right. This content that I mentioned, the first thing I did, it's called the Real Estate Mixtape, which is a doc series about me pursuing my first development deal in New York, where I took 7 young people of color to give them exposure.
We talked about
to
that.
This world, right?
No.
I've been in almost 50 cities with that. I've been in South Africa with it. I've been in Brazil with it because of it. And what I've learned all over the country and around the world is there is a spirit of inclusion, of participation, that I don't really have or experience in any other industry. So I don't experience that shit in Hollywood. Like, we do not work in the same way in entertainment business as people do in business, or even like I have a federal contracting company. Same thing, right? That sort of mentor protege dynamic is actually something that you have to succeed in those spaces. Absolutely. And so that's the why.
Gotcha.
The why is
Makes
not
sense.
about but I know I'm late.
No, let's do it. Listen,
I don't know how you're gonna edit this.
Gentlemen, we appreciate this man got 15 businesses. We appreciate him for coming out. You ready?
Do a part 2.
Yeah. We're gonna do a part 2.
I don't know if you're talking about the same person, but we actually might be interviewing that person.
Matter of fact,
the developer of that
on the Manhattan. We're gonna have them on the show.
We're gonna be there next week.
The
57th Street building. So, ladies and gentlemen, you already know what it is. Another episode of More Than the Title. We're gonna get back. We're gonna let Malik get up out of here. You know what I'm saying? We see y'all later, man. You know what it is.